second half.
Here comes Gooden gonna score the 2 and 1.
Full drive inside. Stop. Hang on a pivot. Turnaround jump shot is good.
Jordan Battle with a nice spin move. Kicks it down low. Fardaws, Big Maple with the finish.
What's up, WAC Hoops Nation? Another episode of the Straight Outta WAC podcast. I have Daryl with me here today on this Wednesday. Kind of an interesting little twist. It was Utah Tech week last week, but we didn't get on with one of their head coaches. So we're going to have Utah Tech women's basketball head coach JD Gustin just joining us now on the Straight Outta WAC podcast. JD, how's it going today?
It's going great. Yeah, thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Of course. So second year, I guess, full season that we're looking to here in the Division I era, because the first season obviously got canceled due to COVID and some health stuff. But take us through your first season, full season, as a Division I team through the WAC. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, your thoughts on it.
Well, we had a blast. It was, it's obviously a great challenge for us. Who and what we are transitioning to the Division I, but just to experience the different styles of play, the great players, the great coaches, getting to see more of Texas, which I thought was fun. We just had a great experience. We were really happy with the way that we finished the season. You obviously want to be playing your bets at the end of the year, and we felt like we were. And so, yeah, overall, it was just it was a great year for us.
I want to ask you that. I talked to John Judkins the other day, last week, and he was mentioning it. Where is it? This year, obviously, you guys are eligible for the WAC tournament. How different is that from a year where you kind of knew where your season was ending, and now you get a chance where you don't know when it's going to end? It's just how well you're, like you said, you're playing your best basketball at the end of the season. How different, I guess, in the mindset is that?
Yeah, it's pretty significant, I think. The opportunity to play in postseason is a big deal for every team, regardless of the level. And that's a pretty significant goal of ours to reach that postseason. And we're gonna a big goal of ours is to win a game in that conference tournament. So we're grateful for the opportunity, and we're going to use it for motivation, no doubt about it.
What style of play kind of stood out to you that may have surprised you last year in your first full season in the WAC?
Well, I really like the league because of it has so many different styles. I've been involved with conferences where almost every team kind of does the same thing, whether they're half court man or they're athletes or I love how just it's just so different from night in and night out, and I think there's some tremendous coaches in the WAC on the women's side, and they have just very significant philosophies to the game, and it just makes it more fun for me. I really enjoy those different styles, preparing for those different styles.
Is it a different recruiting mentality making the jump from Division II to Division I? I don't know. Some coaches say we need to get bigger, or maybe they say we need to get faster, or like, do you see a change there in your maybe recruiting? I guess recruiting plan maybe is the best word, I guess you could say.
Kyle, you're diving into recruiting philosophy now. We could talk about this all day long, my friend. That's a complicated question for sure. Our recruiting philosophy has changed a bit. Really, our map has just expanded a little bit more. I'm a big believer in Utah kids, Kyle. We've won over the years with Utah kids at different schools I've been at, and I believe in them. But also now with we're trying to make that footprint bigger, and that's a really another challenge to all of this. So there's no question that your recruiting philosophy changes, but it's not dramatic for us. We're still looking for a certain kind of kid. It's not necessarily maybe a bigger thing. It's definitely not a bigger thing for us, but we're just grateful to be able to recruit more kids. Like more kids now want to come here. And it's just been a great thing.
You talk about recruiting Utah kids. Looking at your roster, your top 6 players are, and maybe I'm looking at different names, and you have better take on your team. But I'm assuming your top 6 players looking at the roster are all from Utah. I mean, Emily, Brianna, Maddie and Macy Warren, Amber Karchner is even from Logan, Utah. Maggie McCord from Bingham High School. Like, you absolutely are right when you say you like to recruit for the state of Utah. I mean, what?
Well, then you say that, and then our 3 freshmen, or I guess we have more than they're all from Seattle. So this year we kind of branched out a little bit, and we really like those 3. We feel like they have a really big upside for us, and so yeah, it's been it's obviously been Utah, but we're expanding, and then our class that is committed to us now. There's a number from a couple of different states. Obviously, I can't share that with you now, but there's no question that we're expanding.
Is playing in the WAC where you get to go to different places? Like you said, you get to go to Texas quite a bit, Seattle, Phoenix. I'm not fully familiar with the RMAC that you were in when you're in Division II and stuff like that, but like to be able to go to those places, does that help in recruiting different areas? And expand your recruiting areas, I guess you could say?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like, I don't know if it really matters to recruiting if a kid's going to decide to come here or somewhere else based on those things. I do know for me personally, I mean, no disrespect to the RMAC or we were in another league. Like, we went through 3 conferences in 4 years, gentlemen. Like, it was, we've been through a ton of transition here, and maybe the best part of where we're at right now is we're kind of finally, we feel like, getting on our feet, getting through all those transitions, the 2 leagues. And when we got we started our program here, it was in a significant different place than it is now. And so we're finally just like our heads above water, we feel like, and now we can make some progress forward. But, it's fun. It's fun being able to travel to Orange County and to Seattle and to those places in Texas. And we definitely use it in our recruiting pitch for sure.
Daryl, chime in at any time here, buddy.
All right. So you guys finished year 1. Did you feel like after those 3 games in 2020-21 and your season got scrapped, you were kind of starting over from square one going into 21-22?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Daryl. That was a fantastic question. Yeah. And obviously that was a really challenging time for all of us. And I don't really want to revisit it too much, and as I imagine you all might not as well, but I'll tell you one thing. I took the time off like a sabbatical, and I watched a ton of film. Like, I by far the most film that I've ever watched in my life, and I was able to just kind of stop and decide on what we really want our program to look like. And it ended up being different than that year we played, and so there's no question that we started over fresh. Fortunately, I have a couple of years of head coaching experience, so I wasn't having to maybe start over in that regard. But in terms of XO concepts, what we want to do offensively, defensively, it was absolutely a fresh start.
And you make this jump into Division I. You have basically the same core for a couple of years, kind of like CBU as they've just completed the jump. How big is that for you to be able to grow this program at the Division I level with that same core of players?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it again. It's huge. It's and any coach would tell you that. I'm so incredibly grateful to have the group of young people that we have here, and for them now to have some experience. We know what it's like in the WAC. We know what we're going to face. The style, especially the style of offense that we choose to play. We have a chemistry like today in day 3 that we maybe had in maybe February last year. And so it's really exciting. Now it's like everyone, we got to try and keep them healthy. If we can stay healthy, we feel like we're going to be relatively competitive. And yeah, so it's an exciting time here at Utah Tech for sure.
Speaking of health, Maddie Warren missed most of the season last year. How's she doing in her recovery and getting back on the floor for you. If you can talk about that a little bit. I know that she was a significant part of your rotation last year when she played.
Yeah, she's a cornerstone of who and what we are in our program. She's worked really hard to get back, and we'll see. I mean, she's still figuring it out. It's hard, but there's no question. I believe she has the potential to be one of the best players in our conference when she gets that experience. And so we're just keeping our fingers crossed and hoping for the best, I guess.
I want to ask you about Emily Isaacson. What makes her so special? I mean, she knocked down 88 threes for you, led your team by a long shot in that category. Like, what makes her so special with the ability to shoot the basketball?
Well, I think really highly of Emily. She believes in me. She believes in our program. She believes in what we're trying to do. She's just a tireless worker. She's an amazing young woman off the court as well. She's our SAC, that's Student Advisory Committee. She's the president of our department in that area. She's a tremendous student. And then she's really smart with the game. Most of our kids have such a high basketball IQ, and she's she's such a great leader, and she helps teach our young kids. I can't say enough about her. We obviously have high expectations for her this going into the year. We know that people are going to key on her a little bit, so we're trying to expand her game a little bit. She's working on some other things that she does, but just can't say enough about that young lady.
I want to ask you, and I don't know if Daryl's going to ask this. Daryl, you go ahead and ask your next question. Go ahead.
You add Amber Karchner to the fold from BYU. Tell me about what she brings and kind of your expectations for her in her first year of college basketball.
Yeah. Well, Amber had a tough year at BYU last year, so she's she didn't play much even in practice at a certain point. So we're almost kind of starting over with her. But you're right; it's her first year of college basketball for sure. So and here's the other weird thing about that no one knows really about Amber is she just turned 18.
Oh.
She's such a young, she's just young to everything, but boy, does she have some physical tools that really help our team. She just has a first step that you can't teach. She has a high basketball IQ as well, ability to guard that maybe is a little bit more unique than some of our other players. But she's just learning. She's like a puppy right now, and so we got to get her some experience. But there's no question we're looking for big things from her this year and in the future.
How nice is it though? Like, we go back to that core that you have returning with Brianna, with Emily, with the Warren sisters, with Maggie McCord, that you have that core to kind of be the leaders for these young, because there's kind of a youth movement that you have here coming up. I mean, just how nice is it to have 5 or 6 that you really rely on that have that experience playing last year to bring these freshmen under their wings.
Yeah, it's obvious, right? They're able to teach when I'm not teaching. They're able to when I'm not in the room, they're able to share with these young people like how we go about our business. And it's the foundation of what we're trying to build here. No question.
Want to ask you about your schedule. I mean, the biggest thing on the schedule is, how do you feel that Southern Utah is now in the WAC, so you get them twice? I mean, we saw what the football game was like on Saturday night, where that stadium was packed, filled with both Trailblazer and Thunderbird fans. That's going to turn into a pretty awesome rivalry, if I'm being honest.
There's no question about it. It's so exciting. There's no love loss between us and Southern Utah. There's no question. I'm not going to hide that for sure. The one thing about our sport is I really think highly of Tracy. She does a tremendous job. She can flat coach. She has her system, the way they do things. She has good players. They're really, they're feisty and competitive, and they're like her. She's just tough, hard-nosed, run really good things. We have our work cut out with them. We have a ways to go to where I believe that we're going to be able to compete at a high level against them. And all we can do is go to work every day and see what happens. But, she's just built something that's pretty cool there. And we're trying to do the same thing here. Hopefully, eventually we can, and hopefully this year, but we'll see. Hopefully we can be, competitive with them for sure. You can't have a Duke without a North Carolina, right? You can't. We all know that. Whatever other rivalries you guys want to throw in there, but we're hoping that Southern Utah can be ours.
I don't want to point this out. I should. I'm going to though. You get. I believe I was just looking at it. You get Southern Utah in Cedar City, and then you get Utah Valley at home. I mean, you start out with the 2 Utah schools in WAC play. Bing, bing, like. First off, that students aren't going to be back on campus at SUU at that time. So that's probably a win-win for you. But then you get to host Utah Valley 2 days later when students aren't going to be on campus in St. George. So, that's got to be kind of like it's exciting, but it's like kind of a drag because you would love for students to experience both games.
No doubt about it. Yeah, you just nailed it. Yeah, I mean, Utah Valley, Dan does such a great job there as well. They're so tough and hard nosed, and but hopefully, being at home early on, I think we'll have a chance to be real competitive with them as well.
There's one other thing about the schedule I want to ask you about. I believe every school has them at some point during conference play, but doubleheaders where you get a women's game and then a men's game or vice versa, back to back on the same night. Do you like that? Like, is that something that maybe the WAC should try to do more of in the near future in these schedules?
Oh man, a controversial question right there, Kyle. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm on the side of not doing doubleheaders. Yeah, respectfully, I believe that the women's game should be the women's game. Respectfully, again, the men's game is obviously great, but and we love Coach Judkins, we love our guys and everything, but we don't. They're the same as football to me. Like, we should have our players should have their own day at home where we it's just our day where we're having our everything that we need to do, just like they get to have. And so, because I was a small college player, I was a small college coach for years where we had those doubleheaders and they were fun. They really. But I believe it should be a day that's specific to your team, specific to our young women.
I like that. That's something I haven't necessarily considered in it because, I've been thinking doubleheaders, get more fans maybe, but like you said, that's an interesting dynamic to have your own day, your own home game, your home crowd where they're there for your team rather than waiting for the men's game or something like that to start. I like that thought. So. Daryl, you got anything else?
Yeah. As I was looking at last year's, numbers and box scores, you guys were more than competitive. You were in most of your games. You scored more than enough points to, be at the upper half of the conference. But the glaring question I have is the defensive numbers. 70, I think it was like 72 points per game. What are you guys working on to try and cut that number down to a point where maybe it's in the mid-60s, lower end of the 60s, and you can hang around with the top programs?
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking that question again, Daryl, because that's, we were just playing just bad defensively. And I take responsibility for that. I think a part of it is, we chose to play a certain defensive style, a certain defensive philosophy. It was more slow, more pack line. More keep it in front of you, and it was really conservative and safe. And again, I know teams out there play that way, and I respect, but that's not the way that I want to play, not even close. And so we've overhauled our defensive concepts, our defensive philosophies. We're going to do a number of different things. One thing that I learned. When you play that safe, conservative style, there's very few adjustments that you can make. And I just, looking back, and I'm almost embarrassed that I chose to play that way, to put my team in those situations. And so we're going to give you a bunch of different looks this year. We're going to give you some more pressure. We're going to give you some zone. We're going to do a bunch of different things. And hopefully our kids have a high enough basketball IQ to handle it all. I think they do. And then at the end of the day with us, regardless of how you're guarding, we have to just be way better on the boards. We're not going to be as athletic as most teams in our league. But if we can confuse you a little bit, if we can keep you off balance a little and then finish the play, we feel like we're going to have a chance to score at the other end. And I'm really excited about what that might look like.
I want to ask you about that triple overtime game at the Pan Am in Las Cruces last year. I was watching the end of it on ESPN Plus. What was it like to be in a game like that, as a first-year Division I program in essence?
Well, first of all, thanks for watching. We appreciate you watching, and then second of all, it was a ton of fun. It was so fun for us coaches, for our players, to be able to be competitive with New Mexico State on the road in our first year was just super encouraging, and it just helped us build confidence. We executed a bunch of really good stuff that game. I thought we were solid. We were solid defensively. We weren't great, but we kept them off balance at times. And it was. I don't know if you know this or not, but at the end of the third quarter, the smoke alarms or the fire alarms went off.
Yeah, that sounds like the Pan Am. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had to leave the building and go get in our bus. And then we were in our bus for like 30 minutes. And then we came back, and then we had to finish the fourth quarter, and then had three overtime. So it was a wild night. It was one that you'll remember for sure.
That's awesome. That sounds absolutely like the Pan Am Center, though. I'm not going to lie.
And then I got a question about the Greece trip that you guys recently announced. How exciting is that for your program as you guys go forward to show that group that's coming in, hey, we're going to get to go to Greece. We're going to get to do all these things, play abroad, as we get ready for that next season.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say about that? Well, it is about our freshmen, but just like our 5 seniors all have a COVID year. And so Brianna and Emily, we're going to support them with whether they decide to come back or they leave. I get all that. But the idea behind the foreign trip was those kids that didn't get to play during COVID. It's like we're trying, our institution, our department, our team, our program is trying to say, hey, here, we know what you went through. Here's something, I guess that we can give you back for not playing that year, because there's a number of those kids that really wanted to play. And so that's where it stems from. There's no question. It's been fun too, because there's no one in our department that's ever been on a foreign trip. So it's new to our school. And so we're trailblazers, right? Right now we're trailblazing this kind of new project. And so been a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it. We think it's going to be a blast.
That's awesome. I love seeing these foreign trips. A lot of teams went on it this year. They had the schedule during the COVID and they couldn't do it then, and now they were able to, and you guys get to go to Greece this next summer. But first things first, November 7th is coming right. I think somebody said we have 40 days until November 7th, and you guys open up with a doozy right out the gate in Seattle at Washington. How do you feel about that, opening up Pac-12 country on the road?
Yeah, I spent a couple years in the Pac-12, and so I really enjoy it. I love Seattle. It's one of my favorite places to play or go. They have a new staff up there that really is doing a good job. We're gonna go up there, and we're gonna. Well, the good thing is we like playing at Oregon and at Colorado last year. We have a better idea of what we're getting ourselves into. Okay, we're gonna go up to Seattle, and we're gonna just. We're not going to be afraid. We're not going to be scared. We're going to fight them. And regardless of the score, we're going to give them everything that we have. And at the end of the day, that's all you can do. But you never know. That's why you play it, gentlemen.
That's right. Games are not played on paper, folks.
That's right.
Games are not played on paper. That's Utah Tech women's basketball head coach JD Gustin. JD, for me and Daryl, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. And looking forward to, seeing a fun, like I said, experienced veteran group that you got, and seeing what you guys can do in the Western Athletic Conference. as you now know, or you don't know when your season's going to end. So we're looking forward to it.
Right on. Well, guys, I want to say thank you for just your coverage of women's basketball and, your passion towards it, and just, because sometimes you do interviews with folks and they don't know the information that you all know about our team. And I know the rest of the coaches in our league feel the same way. Just thanks for caring, and we just appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, JD. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and we'll talk to you at Media Day, and look forward to watching the Trailblazers in 22-23.
All right. You guys have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Outta WAC podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember to follow us on Twitter at WAC Hoops Digest and Facebook under WAC Hoops Digest for all your WAC Hoops news and information.